out. Oops, totally forgot to do that. Get our bot in here. I was gonna say walk on screen, but my guy did it on his own. So last is Discord. All right. Hello everyone. This is Chris Ingerson, and it is. I keep wanting to say January. It's June 29th, and this is the June 29th TextQuest Devstream. So today we are going to be focusing on custom adventure stuff again. Specifically, we are going to be dealing with um, logic for custom adventures. I would like to try and adjust my guy a little bit. I'd like to try and get JSON exporting working so that we can kind of see what logic looks like when we export it into pure data. Because at the end of the day, all of the custom adventure stuff gets exported to JSON, which means that all of the custom logic needs to be convertible into JSON. Um, I do think I have an idea about how to do that. It is somewhat awkward, and I am a little worried that it might not scale very well. But we will see what I can do with this. Because I do have a theory about how this will work, but it is not tested. Um, so, quick update on where we are currently. As of last week, we have the context menu showing up whenever we right click or hit space. I probably should make it go away if I click on anything, honestly, because having it just kind of float there is a little awkward. Oh, right. These don't have. I also need to get the stuff confined to the drag area and also do a bunch of other stuff. But for now, we do have that cancel button. And you can navigate to the target behaviors that you would like. You can click on them, and it'll log out that you're clicking on that, but it doesn't actually do anything right now. So what I would like to do is I would just like to have a brief workflow for placing nodes and chaining them together. Maybe I really need to rework my arrows because those are not pleasant to work with currently. So the end goal for today is essentially. Oh, you should not have done that. That's weird. I fixed that last time. Huh. Interesting. Okay. So those are not recycling correctly. I'm going to try that again real quick. Because the tooltip should be deparented whenever you click on a button. So we get that to go away. We should have it fade out like that, but that's not what was happening here. I'm not sure what was going on there. Okay, well, whatever. Oh, also, did I not tell them to go away when cancel is clicked? That's hilarious. I don't think that I did. Tooltip pool. Yep. They're both deparented like that. Amazing. Okay, so that means we're going to need to open up those scripts. That's not great, but I guess it's a thing. So we're going to need to open this up. I'm going to need to go to the script for those buttons, probably. Come on, Unity. You're doing the really annoying thing, aren't you? Let's close some of these scripts that we don't need. Custom editor utility with section. Close all of these things. What's layout window? Layout, manager, light dark, logic list button. Here we go. So I'm going to need a public function to hide those things. we're just going to go ahead and say public void hide tooltip. Tooltip. Okay, and all we need to do there is say I guess we can just leave it at that, can't we? Yeah, because tooltip rect itself checks to make sure that the tooltip is spawned. So yeah, okay. Then we're going to have to go to logic list, I believe is what we want here. We're going to go over to bottom grid, or button grid. I think what we want to do is when we call clear buttons, we want to go ahead and call that on all of them. So when we do this, we're not just going to remove all listeners. We're also going to say buttons of I, buttons of I dot hide tooltip. Simple as that. That should handle getting rid of any issues that we had. Okay. Then the next thing we want to do is handle actually spawning these, and we need an inspector. Oh dear. Which actually, no, that takes, before we can get there, one, I'm going to test this real quick because it's almost done compiling. But two, we need to handle how these things are working. And for the most part, the general idea that I have for creating or for exporting data on these things is these classes have to be able to export information about what fields need to be shown, and then we need something that can take those generic arguments. By the way, we're coding today. That can take those generic arguments and then create UI out of them in an inspector. So that's a little awkward. Let's see here. So get bool. So you can see that we have these input types, and I was kind of considering that, but it's going to have to change a little bit. So we're going to go ahead and test this real quick, and then we're going to jump over to some scripts that I had started working on, but I haven't finished yet, which are basically will form the basis for how behaviors recognize their data. Okay, so we have this. Okay, nice. So if we cancel, you'll notice that it stays there. Stays there, nice. Okay. So that seems to have fixed that issue. All right, so I started working on something called a CG logic value. And how that works is basically every possible value that gets set up by, or that is recognized by a logic module or logic node will have a name. That's the name associated with the field, and then a value. That value is going to be different. I don't think I'm actually using this yet. Yes. So we're going to call that raw value. So the idea here is that those values need to be stored in a secure, or not a secure way, in a reliable manner. So probably what we'll end up doing is we will end up serializing a blob of JSON that's all of the fields that it has, and that's going to be things like the name of the field, and then the target value is probably what I'm going to need to state. So this is going to be kind of awkward. Probably we are going to have, so public, what were you called? Like logic param type, I'm guessing. Yes. Okay. So logic param type. This is going to be the type equal to that dot. I guess none by. Let's make it a default of like a bool or something. Okay, I'm going to tooltip these just so that I can see them a little bit easier. So this is going to be the name of the value field. Oops. Tooltip. The type of value being value for the field, and then this is the raw value for the field. Okay. And that probably, no, it's fine. So we're going to keep the raw value for now. Let's see here. So we're going to let that compile, and then I'm going to set up a CG bool value, a CG, let's go ahead and actually create it right now. So CG bool value, which will derive from that. And it's basically just going to be a simple Boolean field. That's all we got to worry about there. Variables, oh, that's going to suck, are going to have to be somewhat more, well, yeah, we'll keep this for now. Should I make you flags? I might try to make you a flag. That could be cool. Am I using you anywhere extensively right now? Not really. Well, that could be fun. Okay. I might recode that to try and use flags and see if I can kind of get into that workflow. I haven't really used the flags attribute for enums very much, but it is very useful. I've only used it a handful of times. I've done probably actually more like direct bitmask operations than I've used for the flags. It's kind of funny. All right, so this is cbl.textquest.custom-adventures. It's going to derive from CG logic value. This is going to be override raw value. We're just going to return true for now. Okay, so we're just going to come over to here, space, and then we're going to go ahead and say so for inputs, I'm not sure that I need anything else because the output would be whatever it's going to be. Hey, yay. Okay. So this might actually be somewhat redundant. I might only need to actually use the base logic value class, but for now we're going to try this. So we'll say public bool value is equal to false. This is just going to return value. Okay, and that lets us do something like this, I guess. Public bool value get return value. I doubt we're going to actually need to use both of those. I'm pretty sure raw value is going to end up being all we need, especially because that's all we can really reference with logic value. But let's go ahead and set this up for strings and ints as well. So CG int value. Okay. Should it choose to do so. TextQuest.custom-adventures. We're going to be CG logic value, override raw value, public int value is equal to 0. We're going to call return. value, return value. Okay, let's go ahead and let that compile. And string is going to be the other one. I'm not too worried about floats for now. We're just going to work with these base ones. So cg string value. Okay. I'm actually thinking that, so these values are probably going to have to just be the inputs, because I think each node will only have one output, not multiple outputs. Although, oh boy, that gets messy. Well, it's fine. So text request dot custom adventures cg logic value ride raw value up here public string value is equal to that. We're just going to go ahead and say get return value public string value get return value. All right, pretty straightforward so far. Actually, something I do need to do with these is I need to have these all be JSON serializable, which is, of course, using sleepyout.common namespace. So JSON serializable. All that does is it means that we now have public abstract. Yeah, I think it's to and from JSON. Yep. So we're going to say from JSON, JSON object, JSON, public abstract to JSON. Oh, sorry, those are void. Void from JSON and JSON object to JSON. Okay, so now we can come over here and we're going to say, actually, I can probably get away with making those virtual instead of abstract, because at the end of the day, all I really need to do is say, okay, well, you are actually not great, unless I make you set. No, I can't really do that. So you probably need to stay abstract. Yeah, you probably have to be abstract. So we're going to leave that. We're going to make this virtual. And to.json is going to be pretty easy in the sense that we just have to say JSON object. JSON is equal to new JSON object. We're going to return JSON. And all we're going to do there is say JSON.add. Give it like a name, which is the name. Pretty straightforward. Then we're going to say JSON.add type, which itself is also type. I don't know if I want to convert that to, yeah, it's probably not going to have fun. I guess we'll cast that to an int to make that somewhat less dense. And then we're going to say JSON.add the value, which is our raw value. Pretty straightforward there. Right, and we want that to probably just call it dot toString. So we're going to make this into an abstract and have the to.json be its own virtual function. So returns a JSON representation of the value. And then initializes the value from JSON, I guess. Initializes the value from JSON. And this is going to be, whatever. Okay, So with that, we're going to need to say override from JSON, definitely. And for that, we're going to go ahead and come down to here. Why did you think I needed to use Unity Engine? That's super weird. Oh wait, no, you were using Unity Engine. I hate it when it dumps stuff above Unity Engine. Okay, we're probably gonna need that for all of these as well. Right, and this from JSON is essentially going to say, so we're gonna have to do something like this dot name is equal to JSON name, then this dot type is equal to what was it, type, logic param type, JSON of type, I think, which is fun because that probably means I need to cast that to an int. And then we're going to say this dot value is equal to JSON value. That one I shouldn't have to convert. It should automatically cast it. So pretty straightforward there. I'm just going to go ahead and copy that. Paste that. Actually, you know what? I probably can shorten that even more by making this virtual and doing this. Okay, yeah, you're going to be mad about it. We're going to make that virtual. And we're just going to get rid of that part, and that lets us just do this. Base.from JSON, and we can just do that. So that, I guess that doesn't actually shorten our code, but it does make it less dense. Okay. So from there, we now have our JSON structure in place, but now we have to set up, let's see, logic behavior. So I'm going to assume that we want this to be public, I guess. So we're trying to think about how I want to do this. So we'll go ahead and say serialize field, and then tooltip, blah, 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 protected, CG underscore logic value. So we'll call this input fields is equal to new logic value. We're going to say fields displayed for this logic behavior. Okay, then we're going to need something like, oh man, I'm trying to think about how to cast this to JSON. I'm not sure how to store these values is the problem. Well, I might be able to figure that out. I think what I can, so I can definitely export the JSON. I'm just not sure how to store it back again. That gets to be super weird. We'll see what I can come up with. Also, hello, Gaming Frame. Welcome back. How are you doing today? So let's go ahead and I'm going to say initialize public void. So I want to go ahead and say this. We're going to say public void get fields JSON. Oof. Terrible name. Which I guess actually makes this a JSON object. And then we're going to say JSON object JSON. No, it's going to be a JSON array. JSON is equal to new JSON array. And that means that this is going to be an array because it's an array of those fields. And we're just going to say return JSON. Great, just got back from 8 hours of work. Oh my, gotta love the day job. Okay, so what we're gonna do here is we're just gonna say for int I equals 0, I is less than input fields dot length I plus plus. We're just gonna say JSON dot add input fields of I dot to JSON. Okay, and then we are going to have to figure out how to render this graphically. I suppose the next logical step for this, before I get too far ahead of me, is I need to actually have nodes be spawned in. So we're going to need the CG logic node. I bet you already exist, don't you? You do. Cool. Well, we're going to drag that up here to core because it's kind of a thing. Actually, I'm probably going to real quick structure this with some more subfolders so I have a little bit better control over this. So I'm going to go ahead and create folder. I'm going to call this the logic list. And that's going to take logic list button and map. So like all of these things. By the way, you thought about sending a demo of the game to some popular YouTubers? Um, I have thought about that, but I would like to hold off until I'm a little bit closer to release, because if I send it off too early, then there will be a bunch of interest that could be generated, but that would fizzle out if people can't get the game within, I'd say, like a couple of months of me releasing it, within maybe a year. But yeah, I have thought about it, but I don't think I'm in a good state to do that yet. It could be interesting as like a little one-off thing, but I'm not sure if it's a good idea or not currently. It's one of those fun balancing acts. Okay, so that's the logic list. We're gonna go ahead and say create folder behaviors. Pull that up here. I know. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and create. You could try it on some small YouTubers. I've actually had a couple of people who liked the game at conventions stream it, or well, they did a video on it, and it was really cool to see. Uh, but again, it comes back to that thing where I would feel bad not being able to give smaller YouTubers like this. Usually when you do something like that, one of the things that people do is the game developer will say like, here's a free key for yourself, and then like here's 10 keys if you want to give it away to some of your followers. Um, Probably smaller games like mine would do like, and here's like 3 keys to give away to your followers. Um, but since again I'm a little too far out, I feel like I need to have something substantial for people to play with. And while the demo is pretty substantial now, there are a couple of things that I would like to do to really make it more viable. One of the things is I would like to have this custom adventure stuff working, because then I could like kind of release the demo and release a limited feature set of the custom adventure stuff, and then people can play with that. They can kind of mess with it. It's not just like a throw this out and hope that people like it situation. It's more like I can throw this out, and then if people do like it, they can play with it. Um, so I obviously tend to be conservative when it comes to these things. Like I'm super like it's not ready yet. I will do so when it's at this point, which is a good and a bad thing. But so we're gonna go ahead and create folder. We're gonna make a map. Okay, so we have logic node, which for right now is fine. We're also going to go ahead and select logic map, and we're just going to drag these into the map section. We will give you a second. Okay. How do I want to handle this actually? So we do need to store the GUID for, well, but not for our logic values. We need to do it for our actual behavior, which is somewhere around here. It vanished into the ether, like these things are wont to do. True, I did say early 2019. I need to update that. I also need to get the Steam Store page actually up so people can wishlist it. All right, so we're going to jump over to Logic Node. It is a draggable. Oh no, just a draggable. Yeah, it needs to be a draggable, doesn't it? Okay, so we're gonna need some eye pointer click stuff too. I'd say 2020. I'm trying to get structurally the first 2/3 of the game done by the end of this year. That would be super nice. Of course, that's what I said last year too. But once I have the first 2/3 of the game done, I will be much more comfortable about talking about this and releasing it to YouTubers and such to try and get people interested on a broad scale. But like I said, that requires me having a couple of somewhat big checkboxes ticked off before I make that move. Okay, so let's open up logic behavior again real quick. There we go. Then I'm going to need, so get fields JSON. We can probably, you know what? I'm just going to rename this. So I'm going to call this, instead of get fields JSON, this is just going to be like get node JSON. It's going to be returns a JSON blob that can be used to show a node on a logic map to construct a node. Okay. So this is going to be a JSON array again. Although before I do that, let's go ahead and rename this to like fields JSON. This is going to be a JSON object. JSON object. JSON is equal to new JSON object. Okay. This is going to return JSON. And what we're going to do here is we're going to say JSON.add fields followed by fields JSON. Oops, fields JSON. Okay. And then on top of that, we're going to say JSON.add, and it's going to be GUID followed by GUID. Okay, then I can now go over to here. We're going to need to make this, let's see. So we don't need this logic behavior anymore. Instead, we're going to change this almost entirely. I'm going to get rid of all of these things, all of this actually, just all of it. And then we're just going to say public void initialize with a JSON object, JSON. Let's see. Never asked you, but how long do you do game dev now? Stream just crashed for me. Oop, sorry. Yeah, usually refreshing the page seems to handle any sort of Twitch issues that happen. I've had that happen a couple of times where it looks like it crashes, like the stream just stops, but then it's still going just fine. It's just that Twitch was like, eh. How long do I do game dev now? Do you mean like in total? Because my day job is also game development, so that means I work at least 8 hours on game development stuff. But for my personal stuff, it has slowed down a bit. I want to say I'm trying to do about 2 hours a day. just because social obligations and other things kind of slow that down a bit. So it's not nearly as much as it used to be, unfortunately. And that's actually why I think my progress has slowed so much in the past year. Um, oh, how many years? Well, this game is over 5 years old now, so I'm gonna say 6 to 7. That would have been my sophomore year of college is when I really started, and that would have been 2012. So 7. Yep. Okay. So initialize is going to take a JSON object. It's that blob that we talked about. So we're going to need a couple of things. We are going to need serialize field tooltip. We're going to need private text mesh pro UGUI label is equal to null. There's going to be label for the node. Then we're going to need to say, is that really all I need? I guess we'll say private string GUID is equal to nothing. So this is going to be the GUID for behavior associated with this node. I have the hiccups, and that's very annoying. I hope to eventually be able to make a game just like you make. You need to make games better than I make. Because I have made many mistakes in my game development career. A lot of them have slowed me down, but I have learned a lot from them. In fact, I would say that if I somehow was able to go back in time with all of my knowledge and experience and restart TextQuest development, I would say it would be done by now, because I would probably be able to do everything that I've done up to this point in half the time. Especially because I would have been working on this back when I was in college, when I didn't have a full-time job, and I could work on this a lot more. But sadly, once you get into the workforce, unless your job is your work at the same time, like your private work, you just cannot make as much progress. It's just a matter of time and physics. Like there's just not enough hours in the day, which kind of sucks. But okay, anyway, so we have our GUID. The next thing that we need to do is handle our fields. So we're going to need to say, wow, does that really make sense? Yeah, it does. They have to be serialized independently of their behaviors. So we're going to need to say private, I guess it's going to be a list now. So we're going to say private list CG, what was it? Logic values, yes. CG logic values, we're going to call these fields equal to new, blah, blah, blah. Okay, those are the two important things. Once we have that, we're going to have fun trying to handle the GUIDs for that. Okay, so for this, we are going to need to say initialize. We're going to say GUID is equal to JSON GUID. Okay, and then we're going to say JSON array fields is equal to not fields. We'll say this field array is equal to JSON fields as JSON array. Which I guess I can probably do like that. Okay, then we're going to say for int I equals 0, I is less than field array dot count I plus plus, and we're just going to say fields dot add new field array. I'm sorry, not new field array. New CG logic. Are you not going to type it all in? Okay, there we go. Field array at I. Oh, why not? Oh, crap, because it's abstract. I guess that means that I don't want to make that abstract. That makes sense. It just has to be virtual. Crap baskets. Okay, so this is going to be just a regular old class, which sucks because that means that raw value can't really function as I would like it to. Okay, I guess this will just be return null for now then, and we'll make this virtual. I guess that makes sense. So let's hop back here to logic node. Oh, right, yeah, duh. So we're going to come up to here. I didn't make a constructor for it because I haven't done this in a while. Let's see. I'm going to continue on my own game right now. As well, my friends made the art I needed. Nice. Well, good luck. Thanks for stopping by. I'm excited to see some updates on it. Let's see. We're going to go ahead and say private. No, it's got to be public. So public CG logic value JSON object JSON, and we're going to say that's equal to null, and we're just going to say if JSON does not equal null from JSON. Pretty straightforward there. We're going to jump back to here. You should now work. Oh, right, we have to say as JSON object. All right, so that should handle initializing the node. The next thing we need to do is, this is going to be a little awkward. So this logic value, I'm going to need a way to set this as well. Fine. We'll just do you like that. So nothing's actually going to happen in that set. And that means that we can come up to here now and say get set value is equal to bool value. And I guess that means we're going to say this dot value is equal to that. So let's go ahead and copy this, cast that to an int, cast this to a string. Okay. That lets us do something like this, which is going to be a little awkward. We're going to say public int, or not int, void set value int index, and then we're just going to have to say object value. We're going to say fields of index dot value, or raw value is equal to value. You want to dev build when I got it? Sure, if you want to send it to me. I'm happy to play through it and kind of mess with it. Nice. So you're going for the twin stick platforming style game, right? Where you have a traditional 2D platformer and the mouse is controlling the weapon direction. That's the sense I got from the video you sent me. So we're going to say set value. That's correct. Okay. We're going to go ahead and jump over here to logic. Well, we'll let this actually compile real quick after I close a few things that don't really need to be open anymore. Okay, we're going to close this. We're going to jump back over here to our logic list, and when we click on a button, I don't want it to just debug anymore. I want it to actually say what it was. Are you not going to do this? So collection behaviors, button on click, on behavior clicked. There we go. Okay. Selection callback dot invoke. references here. We're going to come back to here. On behavior selected, go to definition. Cool. So this is where this gets fun. So we are going to go up to here. Oh man, I need to come up with a whole new thing. We'll see what we can do there. So we're going to say we need a prefab. So this is going to be serialized field, tooltip, private, CG, logic, node, prefab is equal to null. Prefab for the node, prefab for logic nodes placed on the map. Okay, and then we're going to come back down to here, and we are going to have to position it at the mouse cursor, which is great, except it's actually terrible. So when we call show list, we actually want to cache this mouse position. So that means I need to come down to here. We're going to say private vector 3, I think. Cached mouse position is equal to vector 3.0. Okay. And then we're going to go ahead and say show list, blah, 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 blah. So we're going to cache this. And I suppose that means that we want mouse pose, so we're say cached mouse pose is equal to mouse pose here. So we want the adjusted value because that should give us our correct position. Okay. Then I'm going to go ahead and come back down to here. And here's where we get some fun stuff. We're going to say CG logic node new node is equal to pool manager dot request based on node prefab, and then it's going to need to be spawned in. Do I have something called node area? No. I suppose I can just say transform for now. Transform. That's obviously not what I want long term. We're going to need an actual area for this. Let's see, list offset list parent. Let's go ahead and just come up here. We're going to say serialize field, tooltip, rec transform. We got to say private. Private rec transform. Node parent. Nodes parent. Terrible. Is equal to null. So this is going to be parent transform for logic nodes. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and say, where are you? Yes. So we're going to be nodes parent, and then we're going to go ahead and say node dot position dot rec transform dot position is equal to our logic list, I think. Rec transform dot position. Yep. So that's going to be equal to basically that. Cool. So we're going to say is equal to cached mouse position. Yes. I think that's correct. And that should, we need to track it. So we're going to want to go ahead and say private list. Of course, I don't have you in here yet. So we're going to say using system.collections.generic. List of logic nodes. Nodes equal to new list, blah, blah, blah. And then we're going to need to say nodes is equal to that. Show list. Right. So we're going to say nodes dot add node. Ah, there we go. I will leave this debug in for a second so that we know that it's working. And I suppose the next thing that I would want to do is want it to be clickable. So I suppose we can go over there real quick. So I'm kind of jumping around the place a lot. I apologize for that, but the reason for that is that I have to do a bunch of like weird little things to get the main UI flow working. So for example, I need to go to using Unity Engine dot event systems, I believe is what we want. And we're going to derive this from okay, so it's events, not event systems. Is it though? I always get these confused. I click. Okay, hold on. Event systems. Event systems. Okay, so it should totally be that. So that's iDrag handler. I thought it was like I click handle, I pointer. Oh, it's right. It's I pointer click handler. I always forget about the pointer part. Okay. So that's going to come down here, and we're going to say override on pointer. Sorry, public. You know what? Screw this. Come over to here and have them automatically do it. Did you do it? Where'd you go? Ah, there it is. Put it somewhere Why did it put it in the middle of my scripts or of my functions? That is super awkward. Okay. Let's see. I could use some help with the programming though, because the way I do it will be with a lot of scripts. Like a script for every single enemy. That's not entirely unusual, although usually you'll have some core functionality that's shared between them. But I can try to help you out a little bit later. Or at the very least, I can give you feedback on your code. Let's see. So on pointer click, we actually need to do something. For that, it's going to be a pretty basic, just like debug.log, I don't know, the GUID, I guess. Let's just do that. And that should, at the very least, mean that we now have a through line from right-clicking, pulling up the context menu, navigating to a behavior we want, selecting it, and then having that behavior appear. That should all work. It should then spawn a node that we can then click on, although nothing will happen besides the debug when we click on that node. So we're inching our way towards the actual functionality for basically setting up chains of logic. All right, so I'm going to start with UI. I'm going to make an image. I'm going to make another image. And this one's going to be scaled up. It's going to be offset 5 by 5. Compiled right as I started typing. Like it always does. All right. Shoop. All right. And with that, we're going to go ahead and say sliced. Okay. So this is going to be our logic node. It's going to be our background. I am going to have to put some kind of button functionality in on this, and that's going to be super hard. Oh man, it's going to be like a custom button one too, because if I'm going to drag it around, like the logic node should be, then clicking on it is going to be a whole thing, which is funny. So let's go ahead and drag, where did I put it? The node script onto this parent. Okay. And for this, of course, we have to do this a complicated way too. I'm going to go ahead and right-click UI. Oops, sorry. UI, text mesh pro text. That's probably going to take a second because I haven't done anything, or I haven't shown it in a while. There we go. We're going to call this just like label for now. Um, this is where things get awkward. So this background is going to, I want this node to be dynamically sized to fit the name. So we're going to go ahead and add a layout group on this. It's going to be a horizontal layout group with no padding, I suppose. Maybe I want padding of 5. Yeah, 5 all around is probably a good idea. We're going to make this be centered and centered. Um, you will almost work. We're going to have you control width and height. And then we're going to go ahead and right click, or not right click, we're going to go down to layout again. And I'm going to say, I want to attach a content size fitter that is going to go to the preferred size of that. So now you can see that it has basically warped to be fit around my label there. We're going to need to do the same thing to the parent here. So we're going to go ahead and say layout, horizontal layout group, blah, 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 blah. And then we're going to go ahead and say layout, content size fitter, preferred size, and preferred size. There we go. So now as I dynamically type this, it'll change. So I can say like, this is a dynamic label. We're going to go ahead and give this a little bit of extra padding down here. So we're going to say 10 and 10, I think. So 10 from the left, 10 from the right, 5 from the top, 5 from the bottom. Should give me enough. The names of these are going to be something simple like get bool, like that. Pretty straightforward. I'm trying to think about how I can maximize this, or maximize the amount of information I have without showing too much information, but I'm not really sure I can come up with it. So 8-bit font is what we want to target here. Get bool. Interesting, my kerning seems much lower there. Okay, that doesn't seem too bad. So like get bool. Yeah, that's not bad. I'm gonna call this title. That's basically all it needs to be. It's pretty straightforward. Nothing too complicated for the actual prefab itself. Let's go ahead. Where do I want to put you? Map. Okay. Come back down to here. I'm going to go to logic list. Oh, I'm sorry. That's not actually what I want. It's you. I need my logic node here. So last thing we need is the parent for them, which I guess puts them like here-ish. So I probably want to do something like this. Have that be sized. It's going to be the nodes. Okay. So let's give this a try. I know there's an easy way. Well, I mean, that's part of learning how to do game development, right? You start out pretty clunky and clumsy. You're Googling how to do stuff every 5 seconds. And then over time, you just gradually don't Google as much. You always will need to Google probably though, because there's always like some weird edge case that you've never ran into before, and you're like, I don't know what to do here. That still happens to me. Nice. So it's a little awkward to have it be where you cached it, so like it's going to be right here in the center, even though I'm like way down here. Yeah. Ooh. Also, I cannot drag on you. That's interesting. On enable, we got a null reference. Huh. Really? How curious. You are parented. Yes, you are. Which means that you should be able to go all the way back up to this canvas. Huh. Oh, interesting. Hmm. Okay. I guess. Well, that's super weird. Let's go ahead and stop this. I'm not sure why it didn't set that is equal to null. I'm also, I guess, just gonna kind of cheat this and come down to here. Protected root canvas transform. There's gonna be transform. And all we're gonna do is we're just gonna grab this. Get return root canvas transform. Well, I guess we'll do this in one. Does not equal null, question mark, root canvas transform, else. It's gonna be that. Okay. And now, if I come back through here, place you. I'm not really that worried about this on enable anymore. I don't think I need it. Okay. So I'm hoping that get component in parent does not just check the parent. Yes, okay, any of its parents. That's what I thought. I was gonna say, like, they wouldn't have changed that. That's stupid. Okay, so let's try that. Maybe this root canvas not transform is the problem? I don't know. We'll find out. I'm hoping that's not the case, because if that is the case, that means that Unity's own canvas component doesn't know that it's the root canvas, which probably is not great. That would mean that I would have to just constantly keep going up myself manually. Gross! I do not want to do that. Okay, so let that compile. Let's try this again. So I should be able to right click and then place the node and drag it around. There we go. And it goes around with our actual drag area. Okay. But clicking on you doesn't do anything. Oh, never mind. It does. We just haven't initialized it yet. Because I totally forgot to call initialize. So we're going to go over here to logic list. And actually now we're going to go to logic map. And here is where things get awkward. So these strings are the names of the collection and the name of the behavior, I think. So I don't want to, yeah, I don't want to do that. Let me see where this is done here. Find all references. Let's go up to here. Initialize on behavior selected. Come down to here. We have an array of JSON, which I believe, actually, let's go back to here. This logic node labels, I think that logic node labels is the name, but not the GUID. So the GUID is all I really care about. The name is irrelevant. Well, actually, the name isn't irrelevant, I suppose. I am real quick going to go over to here. So I'm going to say serialize field tooltip private string display name is equal to this. We'll call it like behavior. The name to show on nodes associated with this logic behavior. Okay. So the next thing we need to do is, well, actually no, that was the wrong thing. So we're going to grab that and come back over to here. Go to definition. We're going to put it right here. I'm going to make that protected. And then I'm going to come up to here. We're just going to say public string display name get return display name. And we're going to say pretty much the same thing as our tooltip here. Okay. And then we have the GUID, so cool. We're going to go back up to logic map, and here we're going to say display, right. So I guess I actually do want that over here too. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this. Come back over to here. We're going to call this behavior collection. Same thing. So we're just going to go ahead and copy this. Paste that in there. We're going to come back to logic map. We're going to make this be the display name. One of the reasons that I want to do that, by the way, is because every time I ping .name for an asset or a game object, that actually generates garbage. So by having a display name, that has the benefit of, one, not generating garbage every time I call it, and two, I can more finely control what the node name might be called, even if the logic name itself is something a little bit more specific. It lets me have a simpler name. Okay, so that is what we need for the collections. The next thing we want is display name. And I also want to say behavior JSON.add GUID, and then collections of I.behaviors of J.GUID. Okay, so now when we spawn that behavior, or actually no, we're going to go back to here, go to definition, and selection callback is going to be something different. Before it was invoking the name and the behavior ID, which find all references, click on this. What is the behavior ID? It's the button.text, which is not actually what we want. We want the GUID. We want the GUID for the behavior. So I'm going to change this, and we're going to go over here to text, go to definition. Am I doing anything with that? I'm not. I probably should just go ahead and initialize it with a JSON blob. That will shorten things for me. So we're going to come up here, and I'm just going to say public void initialize JSON object, JSON. Okay, that lets me go up to here, logic map. Where did I put you? Here we are. Gonna leave the stream now and put on some music. Probably a good idea. My white noise tends to put people to sleep. But take it easy. Thanks for stopping by. Okay, so we already do have an initialize. Hooray! So let's just go to that and change this around. So I'm just gonna convert this to a single JSON blob. Get rid of this. I'm gonna move hide tooltip to be below this. Move this over to here. Okay. And for this, we're going to go back to logic list. So I want, basically I just need that. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this, paste this back over here, and then come back to here, and we're just going to shorten this to a single JSON object. Okay, and then that lets me do something like this. So we can say JSON for name, and JSON for tooltip. Okay, we can get rid of you, and that also means that we will be able to say private string GUID is equal to null. Not null. We'll just make it empty string. And actually, you know what? No, we'll just make that a regular old getter setter. So this is going to be public string GUID get set. Pretty straightforward there. And we'll be able to say GUID is equal to JSON GUID. All right, so that handles that. Then we can come back to logic list. So instead of saying text, this is going to be our GUID. Okay. And that means when we go to find all references here, we have the callback for the behavior ID, which is the GUID, and the collection, which is still the name. Well, it's a display name. Okay, so section callback. Show collections, same thing. Okay. Ooh, right. So this GUID is different, which means that I want to say if JSON dot contains key GUID. We're going to do this. Else GUID is equal to nothing. So let's put that little island in there. Okay, so the next thing, now that we have the GUID set up, is we want to go to logic list. So for collections, we do want it to be the text, but for the behaviors, we don't. We want it to be the GUID. Okay. So now if we come back to here, on behavior clicked, we are going to call that, which takes us to our logic map, which takes us to on behavior selected. Okay. Probably I will change, well, it'll work for now. Let's see. Node, we need to initialize this. So we're going to say at the end here, we're going to say node.initialize. This is where we got to get the JSON blob. So for this, we're going to need to say JSON object node JSON is equal to new JSON. Hold on. So I'm going to need to say for int I equals 0, I is less than collections dot length I plus plus, and we're just going to say if collections of I dot display name is equal to collection, then we will say we'll break out of here. We'll say int collection index is equal to 0. Collection index is equal to I. Okay, from there, we're going to need to go into our freaking behavior index. So int behavior index is equal to 0. Actually, I'm going to set this both equal to -1 to start. And then we're going to say if, I suppose this, I don't need safety checks here, so we're going to say for int I equals 0, I is less than collections